So I first joined the board of directors in 2005 and became the treasurer, and that was at a time when I was the treasurer that we actually burned the mortgage for this building, burned the mortgage for the daycare up the hill. So we had gone through tremendous growth during the 2000s, and a lot of great tribute to the previous leaders who had decided that paying off that mortgage was crucial to the success of this organization. So each year as we grew and we had excess revenue, we put it against the mortgage instead of going to find other expenses to put it towards. That opened the door for Phyllis Brookshire. When Phyllis Brookshire was president, and the prior president of that was Carolyn Kasdorf, they had a vision that they wanted to make our foundation a reality, and they wanted to make our Leadership Academy a reality. And those had been kind of sitting on a strategic plan for quite a few years. So Phyllis started her year out in 2007 saying, we will get these two things accomplished that year. And we worked towards that. And obviously today, those are two of the cornerstones of the value that we provide at RRAR is those two areas. Unfortunately, the economy took a turn in 08 and 09 when I was the president, and therefore we had some challenges we had to deal with in how to fund everything. But we had great reserves and we worked our way through that, and we lived another day. It was some times where we had to cut back spending and rearrange the way we did things, and we came through it great. Ray Larcher was an incredible association executive prior to us calling him the CEO, and he did a wonderful job of leading us through those challenging times. And we had great leaders to follow.
And I was also going to recall when I got involved about the same time, John, with you, is that I was also very involved with Women's Council and was proud to see the growth in that special corner of our membership, along with, and then getting involved with executive, and then on to president was the smaller brokerage council, which is still doing well. But some of my fondest memories is also with Ray Larcher, who was transitioning also as he thought about retirement. So I got to serve alongside of him, watch that transition to Tessa Holtz, who is also legendary in our field, and was proud to serve alongside of her. And then obviously we're here with Dave Phillips, another icon in the industry. So to see these strong CEOs lead our industry alongside of, and then making us always feel like we were involved too.
I think the biggest thing my year that stands out is the diversity committee. I enacted that here, and we did an excellent job of trying to reach out to diverse members of our association and trying to really mimic how our community actually looked. That was something that I was very proud of. It became one of the most attended committees here at the association. Of course, whenever you grow, you have growing pains, and I think we are experiencing some of that. But that was a phenomenal thing that has taken on and is still in existence to this day.
I think the DEI initiative is one of the big things that even in today, a couple years later, it still is very relevant to the association. Its impact rings true.
Ahead of me getting into leadership, our board really shifted to being more strategic in the conversations and to really engage to allow staff to help run a lot of the initiatives with the participation of volunteer leaders as well as the volunteers. And while that is always a challenge for new leadership to understand, it has allowed us to have continuation of these great programs that got started and allow them to survive and thrive versus having to reinvent themselves every year or two as the leadership changes. I go back to our foundation, which we now call the Realtor Giving Network. We struggled for a long time to find our vision of where we really wanted to go. Thanks, to finally hiring a full-time staff member and really finding how we can best work with the community. Because we were doing small community events, and now we make a much larger, greater impact on the community. And we do it in a way that we can do it. And yes, we can get our hands dirty, but we also can get out and write the check and help in areas where people who are professionals running organizations to help those in need.
One of the other initiatives that is still super successful and has made a big difference here in association is the Leadership Academy. So I was serving at the state level when they kicked off the Raleigh Local Association's Leadership Academy. And it's just amazing to see the leaders that have come out of that on a local level. We've gone on to serve state and NAR as well, but it's just really cool to see them up there and now serving as president and so forth.
And along that lines, I mean, there's just a number of things. I mean, you can look at the Small Brokers Council, just a wonderful addition. You had, you know, a high percentage of the membership that were independent brokers. They really had small shops. And so the Small Brokers Council is something that really kind of was a good thing. And also it's really good to see global, you know, how the global has really come along. I mean, that was sort of like an international council at one point, but now it's morphed into global. And it's something that's really, we're being recognized worldwide.
Yeah, it's become one of the real feathers in our cap.
Well, I think for realtors, their success, I mean, the education value is huge for those who take advantage of it. And I think our biggest frustration always is that we wish more people would participate in the offerings, but those that do get tremendous knowledge and help out of it. But they also get an element of getting to know their fellow realtor. Yes, we are all competitors in one respect, but to know that competitor or to know that person bringing an offer on some level of personal level helps that transaction. It helps the consumers have a better experience, and it really helps move our market in directions. We're not fighting. We don't have the struggles. We hear about that in other markets where there's a lot of complaints and a lot of issues, and we've been able to overcome that in the Raleigh market by treating people with respect. And a lot of that goes to, yes, our companies provide that element, but also it's provided as an element from the board. And you know, whether you've served on grievance or on professional standards, or whether you've just been on a committee or top producers, you've got to know people at a different level, and that's been very helpful. And I think it's helped our members have more success in the real estate space.
I think one of the most impressive things and most valuable things that we do as an association is advocacy. And you know, it dovetails exactly what is our mission as an actual realtor member. And so, you know, you advocate for your clients, your community, and your industry. And when you get into it like that, you have some longevity.
Also along that lines, I mean, I find myself, and have for years, when people ask, why do I get involved? It still comes back to the people, it's the relationships, it's the friendships, it's those connections when you have some, you know, hurdles that you can solve. You can call friends within the industry, referrals, even with outside of our association. Just really proud of the connections that we have.
You know, when I first got involved with the association back in 2002, one of the first things I worked on was signage. You know, at the time, you know, the realtors were being fined up to $500 per sign if it was out in a place where it was prohibited by the city. And so a group of us from the Government Affairs Committee at the time went down and talked with the mayor of Raleigh and said, hey, you know, can we strike a deal, you know, where we can put our directional signs out on Friday and pick them up by, you know, 8 o'clock Monday morning without being fined. You know, she was amenable to that, and actually I think that practice exists to this day, which is a tremendous value to agents trying to sell properties that really right out aren't on the beaten path.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about signage, and while they can clutter a street, they're necessary to get the best exposure. Yes, that was back in a day and age where not everyone had an iPhone in their pocket.
Right.
That still has to this day. We need those. We need them as agents to be able to find their way to some properties when they're down a long winding road. But it's interesting with advocacy that so many people fail to understand part of what we do is we're representing property owners, whether they're asking for that representation or not, because a landowner or a homeowner is not paying attention to what's going on locally or on the state level or national level regarding property until they come to sell their property or until their property taxes go up. And it's a unique thing that we provide for those who are not even asking for our help, because we know they need that help and we are paying attention to that. And that's a unique step that I find, unlike many other trade organizations that are just there to protect their members, we're trying to protect property rights.
Well, a good example of that is flood insurance, and while it's still not perfect, there's been years where we've been advocating to our, our congressmen and so forth to extend, because that homeowner has no idea the cost that it's going to entail, or we've heard examples around the state of how expensive that has been. And sometimes, when we would go up to DC, they didn't even realize the extent of what was happening. So it was great to be involved firsthand.
Have you noticed similar things? Like we've done a lot of advocacy on the local level, and I'm pretty sure all three of you have worked on the state as well as the national level, if I'm getting it right. What impact have you seen beyond the local, like whether it's state or national, that you got to be a part of?
When I was president of the state in 2019, we worked on an association healthcare plan. And it was something we were trying to do to try to ease the burden of, health insurance on our members. When you're an independent contractor, you're having to pay that out of pocket. And so we really advocated and lobbied the General Assembly, the governor. We actually met with the governor on it. After a little while of really working on it, the General Assembly passed the bill, and the governor did not sign it, but he didn't veto it either. And so it became law. And a lot of members, I think at the time about 6,000 members, took advantage of that and were able to provide health insurance for their families.
The diversity of our industry, from the government sector to the hospitals and the universities, through to industries. And we're not just a tech industry, we're not just the bio world. We've got a little bit of everything. And I think by attracting the different avenues of job sources, we create stability as different industries come and go. We even look at attracting Apple, which is here partially, but they hadn't built their facility yet. But many of the leaders of Apple, they all went to school at Duke.
Yeah.
And one of them even grew up in Raleigh. And they just took a long time, but they're here. And I don't think we'll see them leave. And they're a force for many decades to come.
I also find it's just easy to talk about the number of universities. So we talk about great education. Certainly weather is mild, depends where people are moving from, but affordability is still a strong attraction from those who are coming from the West Coast, even the Midwest. We're seeing more people come from Texas, Florida, certainly up north has been very attractive. So we're kind of like Goldilocks here with just a happy medium of a lot of different factors.
Yeah, when you look at the Triangle area, we are a destination area.
Yeah.
I serve on the planning board for Wake County, and we have 51 people now moving here per day. And it was as high as 63. And when you look at that, you're looking at 225,000 people, over a 10-year span to 250,000 people. And at the same time, we're only building about 8,900 homes, every year. So nobody's moving, okay? And it's an attractive area, a good quality of life, a very attractive place to live compared to a lot of different places across the country.
And the following of family has been one of those things that we've all watched, where one person comes here for a job, and next thing you know, whether it's brother, sister, cousin, certainly parents follow. As parents have retired, as grandchildren show up in our marketplace, the grandparents come flowing in. And because we've got good health care, we've got now great options for somebody who's wanting to maybe scale back the size of the yard or have lawn care and all that. And we've really found a whole new buyer pool that is not driven by the jobs for them, but is driven by the jobs for their family members.
That's correct.
Just out of my own curiosity, how long have each of you lived in the Raleigh area?
Since 1965.
Okay, Asa?
I've been here since 2001.
Yeah.
1998, so 26
So
years.
the newbie's 24 years in. But I think that shows how each of you can really prove the value of this area.
Well, I haven't been as involved as maybe both of you have been, but just ancillary apartment setups. The Realtor Foundation is just amazing. We probably could sit here and talk about all of their efforts and the growth that they have made from a very small endeavor. But to literally bring my team and set up apartments and just see the impact it has on families, it's priceless.
And that's been a nice shift or understanding of our realtor members, that we need to help those that might not be buyers today, might not be buyers in a year or two, but they need housing. They need a good roof. They need safe housing. And an area where we've done well, but we could still continue to do better, is how to make our community a better place to live, regardless of whether you're buying or renting, and kind of where you are in that status of life. It's a challenge, and some of our members understand that so well, and others do not. Part of it's just kind of what they're exposed to. And as Linda said, you go set up an apartment for a family that's coming out of homelessness, and they're moving in, and you watch their faces light up when they come in, and they're coming in with a crate that's got all their clothing and all their worldly possessions is in one crate, and you've suddenly got a kitchen table and food and a bed. It's amazing.
It's been really a blessing to, advocate for the community.
Yeah.
I think the community really, it's always been a challenge to get them to see how much we're advocating for their private property rights and home ownership. And we are the only entity that does that. And so that to me is a very valuable asset to the community. They benefit from it, a lot of them not without even really knowing it, and so that would be my answer to that.
That's great.
How to be a servant leader and how to be humble. We live in a world that, yes, we are fortunate to be put in positions of a title, but it's what we do with that title. And I go back to Leadership Academy and what that provides. It's not just how to be a leader at RRAR. It's how to be a leader in your community, in your church, in your PTA, in your homeowners board, whatever you want to be. And I think that's helped a lot of our members who've gone through that program understand more about themselves. I know I learned a lot about myself going through the process, and I became a better person because of my Leadership Academy.
I'm similar to that. I think, the definition of a leader, that's pretty, widely accepted, is that the willingness to put, your own personal interests, behind the interests of others, right? For me, that's something that was really a challenge, because you kind of think about, how's this going to benefit me, which is, I think, pretty much everybody, right? But to enable yourself to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, really is a challenge, and I'm still working on it. But I think I've done a very good job of getting to where I am today by, adhering to it.
It's a tough question because I've learned so much thanks to this association, but learned that things are always changing. There is always a change around the corners, something that may be resisted or not, but we don't work in silos. We do this together, and again, having friendships and others in the industry to help us get through that is a big deal, and I learned that early on. I'm grateful for that.
And something being a part of the association, when you look at the wall of past presidents, all 100 of them now, it's amazing the pictures and the names that are up there of the people that were mentors for all of us who've come later, and it makes us realize what we need to do to the next generation of leaders. There are people who were mentors to me that didn't even know they were mentors to me, but I watched what they did. I observed, maybe ask a question here or there. They kind of helped give guidance in whether my early days of being a realtor or early days of being a leader here at the association. And it is great when the past presidents get back together and just to see what some of these individuals, how they completed their careers and are enjoying life after real estate. Well, my first company that I was affiliated with when I first got involved in '88 was Fleming Marcy, and both Johnny Marcy and Tommy Fomble are just known as leaders not only of their company, but leaders of our industry. They provided solutions at the Board of Realtors that served the greater need of all realtors and not just their firm. From actions done with our MLSs to building the building and really they encouraged their managers and their leaders to become leaders here. And I think that's what somebody pulled us along to always get to where we have. Past President Mary Edna Williams is one who pulled me into going, you need to get involved. I have been in the business 14, 15 years and have been involved in home builders, but not here. And she pulled me in, and the rest is history here, 19 years later.
Hey, no fair, I was gonna mention Mary Ann.
You can mention it too.
Yeah, I mean,
Give the kudos.
I have so many stories of traveling with Mary Edna, and she literally took me by the hand one time when we were down on Jones Street at the legislative meeting, and she would just take me and introduce me to the local politicians. I'm scared to death, but she was just such a great mentor to me, and still is. And I can't not mention Jean Hunt, who again took me by the hand with Women's Council and sign me up for something. And the rest is history. She's an amazing woman and has a lot of history here. We're grateful to know her too.
The very first person that even introduced me to RPAC, I was at I was working at a mom and pop, type real estate firm, and he came to talk to that firm for me because I was involved with the association. And he said, I want you to really get more involved, join a committee. And so I really appreciate Eddie Speeds, Caldwell Banker Advantage. He was an excellent person, that got me involved. But two of the people that were very influential with me as I came into leadership are actually sitting here right now. I really think getting into leadership as far as the presidency and things like that, really as a result of John Wood here, and definitely had a lot of, guidance and everything from Linda Trevor.
Yeah.
But Mary Edna, I think Gary Raybon, these were some people who really, took time with me and, encouraged me to, climb the ladder and kind of share what I have to give to the association.
But Asa will never get another car with me. 'Cause we were in D.C. and we were headed over to a baseball game in Baltimore.
That's right.
And we spent that 45 minutes an hour talking about he needed to come on into a leadership role. And the rest is history, because he's not only done, local, but he's done and made us proud on a state level and is so involved on a national level. And that's the beauty of this organization, is we find our place where we best fit. And for each of us, it's been a different path. Even though we end up at some of the same meetings, we're there for very different reasons, whether it's on a local, state, or national level. And that's been fun.
I have so many great memories that bring smiles. But one of the things that comes to mind is when I was first invited to a banquet for RRAR. It was my first one. It was at Northridge. I was still very new to everything. And I remember Tom Smith getting, I believe it was Realtor of the Year. And I was in tears, in such a positive way. I mean, he was so humble, accepting his award. Shared that story of how the turtle shows up at the top of the post, and just gave so much credit to everyone else. And he just had a spirit about him. I'm like, I want what he has. I want that appreciation. And we ended up going on to be great friends, still are. He's another mentor, but it was a very memorable evening for me.
I've seen Tom give speeches in the past that have left people,
Yep, in tears.
Yeah.
Yes.
For me, I often think back to Gary Raybon giving me that call and saying, hey, we really would like for you to consider running for president. And I'm going, no, you've got the wrong person. I don't understand. No, I know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know if I'm ready to do that. And he said, I kind of was picked to ask you so you wouldn't say no. And so he was the owner of the company I was at. So I said, I'm not saying no to this then, I guess, right? To have been president, joined the National Association Leadership Academy, chair that Academy Advisory Group 3 years later after I was in it, become the president of the state, and serve as liaison and serving as liaison now in the extended leadership team for the National Association of Realtors. None of that would have happened if it wasn't for that phone call. And so I sit down sometimes and kind of think, I am where I am today because of that phone call. It's a fond memory.
So one of my memories is going through the selection of our leadership for the CEO role. And I've been blessed to be a part of several of those. And the group that, as a selection committee, we learned a lot about each other, and we learned a lot about, none of us were in HR, none of us were in recruiting, but we really learned how to go through a different process and to evaluate some incredible potential leaders. And we sat there with some real difficult choices about which one to bring here and what are the reasons and how will that change our organization. And obviously, especially going from Ray Larcher, who had been here for 20 plus years, to a young, highly energetic Tessa Holtz, was a dramatic change. And we sat and struggled with that decision when we were at a conference room in DuPont Circle in DC. And we walked back and forth trying to figure out what is this going to look like to bring in this ball of energy as we have the gentleman who's retiring. And that helped re-energize coming a few years out of the recession, and it helped change our organization. It helped us find growth in areas that we had not been looking, and she was a great influence for us. And as she left to go on to other ventures, she gave us great feedback on how we needed to structure our future leadership, and that included not having the same CEO run our MLS that runs our board, because that was too many roles for the CEO to hold. And you know, we now are living proof of dividing that up and allowing a leader to run with our MLS and having another leader run our association, and how much more we're able to accomplish.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges that we have in the Triangle is, at what point do we and other associations that are nearby, when do we start doing more together? Whether it's we come together completely or whether we just start doing more programs together. The element that I feel we've got to do is we've got to get more of our members engaged and understanding what opportunities are available here. And that's a challenge, and it was a challenge 20 years ago. It's a challenge for the next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Our industry obviously is under a lot of challenges from outside of our industry. And we have got to find ways to make sure our association is the voice of reason and the voice of future success for our realtors that are members.
I think, you know, in my opinion, I would love to see us raise the value of using a realtor in the community. You know, that's something that throughout my tenure I've seen as a struggle for our association and associations around the country, and as NAR. And I think what we have to do is raise that image, make it more of a positive image for the community, and get them to see that we are a necessary component of the transaction. And everything gets better in that real estate transaction when realtors are in it.
And then on top of that, I think the challenge and the goal would be to increase the voice of our benefits, our member benefits here at the association, which again, in a very fast moving career or industry and a lot of noise online, whatever folks are listening to still remember that there's so much offered here, and we're stronger together because of it, no matter what the challenges might be. We've seen our challenges over the years, and whatever we're going through now, we'll look back and we'll be able to get through it. But just increasing that voice, there's so much that is offered here, and realtors will be stronger and better professionals. They will serve the community better. They're going to just be able to turn it up a notch.
I think that's a pretty good place to end it right there.
Great job. Good job.